Coming up, I get a windowless deadhead seat, but I get some really good Japanese food and I'm paid to eat it. I fight with a Tokyo subway machine, and at the end, I successfully avoid hitting coyotes landing in Dallas Fort Worth. Stick around. So, second trip in a row where I start off flying a 787, well, flying on a 787. Hello, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I am a husband of a scientist. It is Sunday, 12:01. This is February 9th, and I am headed to actually Tokyo, Japan for the first time, going to Haneda, and then flying out of Narita. So it's a very interesting trip. So probably on my last trip video, I flew to London on a 787. This time it is Haneda. Why so many deadheads? It's scheduling changes and optimization, and it's getting the right crews in the right place at the right time. For this trip, my understanding is, for what reasons, I don't know and I'm not privy to, and it doesn't really matter, there are no flights to Haneda between the 10th and the 16th of February. And so, for some reason, they have a 777 crew deadheading to Haneda to fly out of Narita. I don't know why that's connected, but it is. How did I get this trip? Great question, Darren, because Darren, you're so junior. This would seem like a senior trip because it pays so well for so little work. Great question, Darren. I was in London and actually saw this trip open in open time a week ago, but I couldn't get it. It went senior. And then for whatever reason, the morning I was in London, the senior pot that had it, for some reason dropped it. For some kind of reason, it went away out of his schedule, his or her schedule, at like 7:46 a.m. Dallas time, which is important because nothing can happen to it until it's been washed. It has to go through a cycle. The cycles happen at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., meaning at 8 a.m., it goes out by seniority. Any pilot that is senior enough can get it within all these parameters, right? Here I am in London like, well, crap. I already have a trip for Sunday. It's supposed to be a FB for an IOE trip, a relief pilot for an IOE trip to London, meaning there'd be 4 pilots total. That's on my line for the month, actually. I'm like, I don't care about that trip, but this trip pays 7 hours, almost 7 hours more, 6.5 hours more. But it's just a deadhead to Narita, not London, and a flight back. Something different, and it's less work, right? I get paid the same to deadhead or fly. So I only had a few minutes to think about it. So I said, you know what? Worst case scenario, I don't get it. So I put it into the computer system for a trade. I said, I want to straight up trade this trip for that trip. A few minutes after 8 o'clock, I got awarded the trip. Right? So I'm having a good month. I'm a big believer in karma, huge believer in karma. I try to be a good person, try to treat people right well. I think it comes back to me in spades. And I don't do it to get stuff back to me. I do it because it's easy to be a good person. It costs nothing to be a good person. Anyways, so this is a deadhead to Narita, and because of the pilot contract between the pilot union and the airline, I am given a business class seat on a 787. I have seat 5A, be my first window seat on a 78 in a while. Normally get the aisle seats, not complaining. But yeah, long deadhead to Narita, and then somehow we get to Haneda, sorry, and then somehow we get to Narita. I know it's via a chauffeured bus service. Of note is that the flight attendants that are working the 78 to Haneda are working my 777 to DFW out of Narita. So I'm not sure if we're going to be all on the same bus or different buses or different hotels, because when I can see in the pilot app right now, it only shows the hotel for the 78 crew, not for the 777 crew. Unless we're all, I mean, I'm not quite sure. We have our normal hotel is in Narita, so we'll have to see how that works. It'll be a shorter overnight because we do have to travel from Haneda to Narita, and it's about an hour and a half, I think, bus ride. So it's a pretty good bus ride, which I can relax and sleep. And I won't be tired anyway because I'm deadheading on in 787. So follow along if you want to. As of now, for the month, because of my last trip, which I hope I already explained to you, I got displaced for IOE from my original Madrid trip. I'm at 122 hours for the month. And I think I'm going to end up flying as a pilot closer to like 70 hours, I think. So I flew back from London, that's 10. Flying back from Narita, that's 14, that's 25. And then I have those 2 trips. Might be 85. Yeah, maybe 82. 82 hours paid for 120. Not my best split, but pretty good split. So, but then forecasting, just a heads up for March, I'll have very few trip videos in March. I have a lot of vacation in March. 2 weeks vacation plus some extra days thrown in there for good measure. So for March, I'm going to be doing probably not trip videos. And because of the pilot union and the contract between the airline and the union, it behooves me to bid reserve next month. According to my union documents and the guides they have for pay and vacation, I believe if I bid short call reserve next month, I'll owe them 10 reserve days and I'll get paid for 106 hours, I believe. But they already have my recurrent training scheduled at the end of March, so I think I'll have like maybe 8 reserve days for 106 hours. And on those 8 reserve days, they might fly me 1 trip, maybe 2 trips. We'll have to see. So March will be a little bit slower for videos. I'll have to dig around for some content. I'm sure I can find something. Oh, that's a bad accident. That's unfortunate. Oh, sideswiped. Ouch. Dallas drivers. All right. Okay, follow along if you want to. Thanks. So, after surviving another crazy ride on the employee bus, headed into Terminal D and upstairs and cleared KCM. Again, didn't get rammed. I was in full uniform, just to be safe. And then I did go change into normal clothes. Now, I was here a few minutes early, and I had time to go to the Capital One lounge here in DFW. I have a Capital One Venture X card. It's a great lounge, except they only take revenue passengers. Too many non-revs have ruined it for everyone else. So I only go here when I have a deadhead or a paid ticket. It's very rare to have a paid ticket, but I have a deadhead today. So went up to the Capital One Lounge. Very busy today. Again, this is a really nice lounge. Really nice lounge. But grabbed this seat and had a few. They have a lot of small bites. It's not a real full meal thing, so they have lots of small bites, and they're all very high quality food. But had a few bites, had some ginger ale, and then I grabbed some of the best cookies in the world, some lemon cookies, and some kind of caramel something cookie for the road because you're gonna have a long deadhead. And airplane food is good, but I don't mind other food as well. Once I was done, headed downstairs and over to the gate, down the jet bridge, and found my seat 5 Alpha. And then I laughed because I actually had no window. If you notice, there's no window here. It's a windowless window seat. Uh, on time departure, took off, and I did order the Japanese meal. Something different, right? And we don't get this up front as pilots. So ordered a Japanese meal. This is just the appetizer. And it was very high quality, very good. I ate most of it because, again, I'm on semaglutide, so I have a very small stomach. But I tried everything anyway. And then when I went to go use the restroom and came back, the awesome purser had taken my meal and replaced it with the actual main entree. But they took my silverware. And I'm like, I guess I can use chopsticks. And I could kind of use chopsticks to eat it. And it is what it is. It's fine. It's fine. But the food was very good. And then, of course, it's a crazy long flight. So after a bit, I did take several naps on the way there. I have an awesome eye mask, my own personal one, laid back. My feet are kind of big for the foot area, but I did my best to take several naps. And then before I knew it, we were almost there. So we had the pre-arrival meal. Again, it's the standard. I did go for the American breakfast. I didn't want the beef and rice, I think it was. So this is the same thing we have up front, little omelet. But landed on time, got to the gate. Again, there's my windowless window. And we headed up to clear customs. And there was confusion at this point as where we were staying. The captain was right in front of me. He thought we were staying in Narita. The other FOs were across the aisle saying, no, we're staying in downtown Tokyo. So the captain called the hotel desk. It took a little bit, but we have a long walk ahead of us anyway. But indeed, we were all actually staying in downtown Tokyo, which is awesome. Now, this airport, Haneda, never been here before. It looks very much so like the Tokyo Narita airport. Very similar carpet, very similar design. Again, it's a very nice airport. I'm not complaining by any means. Lots of walking between the gate and customs. But we all cleared customs, got my little yellow card. And of course, if you ever go to Japan, make sure you save that little yellow card because that's your exit of the country. Hopped on the bus and took the decent ride to downtown Tokyo to a very, 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 very nice hotel. This hotel is much bigger than the one we have in Narita. Now, I should have gone out with the crew, but I thought I was tired, and that is a huge mistake on my part because I thought, okay, Darren, you're in a new country. It's bedtime. Go to bed. Huge mistake because I tried to go to bed and I just rolled around for a couple hours before falling asleep. Okay, good morning here anyway. It is currently 6:15 in Tokyo, and I believe it is 3:15 in Dallas. I've been awake here since about 2 good Lord, 2 in the morning, midnight, around there. I got here and I got to the hotel around 7, went to bed right away. I thought I was tired, but I wasn't that tired. But I did fall asleep eventually around 8 o'clock, and then woke up around midnight, 12:30. And I've been tossing and turning ever since. And then, not tossing and turning ever since. Around 1, I decided, yeah, I'm just going to be up. I had to be around midnight. I contacted my wife around 8:30. Once around 12:30, I said, I'm staying up. And I flew with a guy on my last trip who just stays on local time. I said, Darren, at 2 in the morning, I get up. And I'm up. And I drink coffee and I do things. I didn't have any coffee because I want to go to bed in a couple hours. But yeah, I decided to stay on Dallas time, right? So now it is 6 in the morning here. The sun is coming up. I'm going to go for a walk, even though it is 33 degrees. Didn't pack my thermals like I should have because I thought I was staying in the Narita hotel. Now, let's rewind a bit. I should have talked over the deadhead here, long deadhead here. When we got here, there's a little bit of confusion because in my crew app, it normally lists the hotels we stay in, right? But it was listing hotels for the working crew, the pilots, and the flight attendants because we're flying. No, wait. What did it say for them? And the flight attendants. It did, but not for us. The flight attendants and the working pilots were staying in Tokyo proper. We didn't have a hotel. But on my schedule, it had like a 30-minute surface to Narita. So I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna put me in Narita tonight. It makes sense. And I guess the flight attendants stay here because they had a long day. They actually worked the whole flight. That's what we figured. So the captain was sitting in front of me. Other FOs across the cabin. One of them had an email saying, no, we're staying in Tokyo. We're like, oh God, crap. So the captain made the phone call. We got out. We playing the whole full airplane. We were totally full plus a jump seater. That was interesting. And then my crew of 4 pilots were the last people in line, so we could figure out what the heck we're going. So we cleared customs, and this airport is very similar to the Tokyo Narita airport, probably same designer, kind of like 70s modern. Cleared customs, got my little yellow card so I can leave the country. Then you got a phone call back saying we are staying in downtown Tokyo, so there's that. And so we got on the bus. Thankfully, we figured out where to go because, I was always told early on a wide body, always follow the flight attendants. Well, they went ahead while we were still in customs. Not too far ahead, but a little bit ahead. So we didn't see them anymore, right? I was the last to leave customs. So I'm like, well, I guess we just go toward buses. So we started walking toward buses and they had a right and a left. I'm like, let's go left because left is best. And went down the escalator, and thankfully the bus was right there. They even had my airline logo on the front of it with our flight number, so right bus. Got on the bus from Haneda to downtown Tokyo. Very nice hotel room, like really nice hotel room. Really nice hotel room, especially for Tokyo. The ones in Narita are much smaller. The rest of the crew did go out last night, but I'm not a drinker, and I'm like, it's cold, and so I didn't go out. And I know my new year, new me. But I decided I'm going to go out this morning. I'm going to go to get breakfast, and then the Tokyo Tower opened up at 9. That's 2.5 hours from now. So I gotta figure out what to do for 2.5 hours of walking around Tokyo in the cold. Hopefully I can find something to do. But yeah. In case I didn't mention, the part of the jump seater goes, because we were full, and we had 4 pilots who were working the flight. All 4 pilots were always on the front flight deck for takeoff and landing. So the jump seater has to sit somewhere else for takeoff and landing. And then once we climb up and the 2 relief pilots go on break, the jump seater goes up front and sits in the jump seat for the rest of the flight. So, not gonna say where they sit for takeoff and landing. So don't ask, because it's some policy and procedure stuff, and I can't do policy and procedure stuff. So, and if you know, don't comment, because I don't want you. It's not necessary. All right, let's go to fun breakfast. So yes, it is crazy cold. I have my USB hand warmers in my pocket. I'm walking, filming with my Ray-Ban Metas because it is so cold. Again, yeah, whatever. Last time I was in Tokyo with my wife many, many years ago, we stopped by these vending machines every day before we went to the hotel, and we would get random drinks. And they had red buttons and blue buttons, and we didn't know what they meant. We learned that red is hot and blue is cold. Fast forward to now, and they actually labeled the buttons. So the buttons now are labeled hot and cold. Might be kind of hard to tell because of the glasses, but they're actually labeled hot and cold, which is pretty neat. And many of them did take the tap to pay U.S. credit cards, which was nice. But I had about a mile, maybe a little bit more than a mile walk to breakfast. And again, I like what I like, and so I didn't really want to have a Japanese breakfast. I wanted something that would fill me up, that tasted good, and I was familiar with. So where did I go? I went to the Golden Arches. Went to McDonald's. I had some hotcakes, about half of a McGriddle, and some coffee. Yeah. And it was good, and the service is great because you go in and you can order via touchscreen, via English. You take a little thing, put it on your table, they bring you the food. And many people were just sitting here reading and eating their breakfast. I didn't feel too out of place. People seemed to sit here for a long time. But I enjoyed my breakfast, and I headed down to the subway. And the subways in Tokyo can be very complicated. My wife had a whole subway guide when we were here the last time. Now I have Google Maps. So I knew where I was going. I just needed to buy a subway card. Now, this is where I ran into my next problem. These machines, I swear, are the same ones we used here 17 years ago or so when we were first here. They they have English options, but no matter what I did, I could not buy a card from this machine, even in the English option. I was looking for just a simple day pass, unlimited ride day pass, and it would not take any credit card I had. And again, all my credit cards worked at McDonald's. They worked in the airport. They work all over Tokyo the whole day long. These machines did not like my American Express, my Visa, or my MasterCard. So I ended up having to, and I kept looking for someone at the little desk, and there was no one there. But I saw a QR code on the wall about buying a ticket via your phone, and then you could pick it up at the machine. So that's what I ended up doing. It cost me another $1 doing it this way, but I was able to buy the ticket on my phone, and then I scanned my phone's QR code they presented to my phone, and I got the ticket I needed to go ride the subway. Now, I've ridden subways in multiple countries and multiple cities around the United States. These subways are spotless. They're not new by any means, but they are very clean. They're very quiet. There's no one eating anything, no one drinking anything, no spillage. Clean, clean, clean machine. And I think they did have like color coded seating for women and men. But I did have one connection. I was going to the Akihabara district because the electronic district, right? I'm a geek, and I was hoping stuff would be open. It wasn't, but Google told me I had like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes to make my connection. I'm like, that is not enough time. Especially, I never know which direction to go when I leave the darn subway. So at first, I went left, and I went, I don't think this is the right direction. Nope, nope, nope. I should go the other way. So I went the other way, and it was just timed perfectly. Like I had enough time to walk at a normal pace all the way across, up the escalators, and onto the next train. Now, walking outside of the subway in the Akihabara district, it was cold. Yeah, Darren. We hear that enough. Okay, fine. But it's also a holiday on this day, so no one was downtown. Everywhere I walked, it was like a ghost town. So it being a holiday and is also early, nothing was open. My wife and I came here again back in 2008, and we loved this area at nighttime. And again, hindsight 2020, I should have come here the night I arrived. I didn't, and I'm kicking myself for that. But I got my steps in, walked around quite a bit, did some, looking through windows and that kind of thing. I did pass a line of people waiting for something to open. I imagine they're buying video cards, maybe, or maybe something else. Didn't ask them. But once I closed all my rings on my Apple Watch, I did head back down to the subway. And while I was on the subway, I was looking at the Tokyo Tower reviews, and apparently, last time I was here, you could see a lot of stuff, but lots of buildings have sprouted up since then, and they're saying the view isn't as great anymore. So I'm like, well, bummer. So I changed my mind, didn't go to the Tokyo Tower. Instead, I headed back toward the hotel area. I did stop by a 7-Eleven to get some snacks before going back to my hotel room to get ready for my nap before the flight. One crucial part of hotel room, especially for international pilots and who do red-eye flights and late-night flights, is how dark the room gets. This room gets super dark because, again, if I can't sleep in a dark room, I do sleep with an eye mask. Sometimes I have to use like the coat hangers to make the room dark. This room got crazy dark, like pitch black dark. I slept for about 3 hours before I woke up and got ready to go back to work. Again, I do lots of packing before the nap so that I have less to pack after the nap. And I take lots of controlled naps on the airplane during my rest breaks, and then of course on overnights as well. I'll show you my bottle of water from the room. It's an aluminum bottle, and my sugar-free Red Bull, which I didn't end up needing even on the flight. I actually brought it back home with me. I've gotten really good at napping and controlling my rest. But here is my pre-departure hotel video. Okay, so almost done packing up the room. Should have had a V8. Currently 2:17 local time, 11:17 p.m. in Dallas. Had about a 2.5 hour good nap. That's really, really good. Credit to my system of sleeping when I'm not tired. It's gonna be a weird day today. So, it's already 2:17 on Tuesday, and I land back in Dallas at 2 on Tuesday. So the inbound on its way, so that's a good thing. It'll be the first time in a while that my wife and I, for a brief moment, for a brief time today, my wife and I will both be in the air at the same time. So, in theory, her job rarely ever has her testify for work. Most time these criminals plead out, but this one is actually going to go to trial. So, one of the challenges of having being a traveling family with no family in town to watch our kids is this situation here. Someone always on the ground. Now we have a great network of friends that can always step in at the last minute if we need be to pick up a kid from school or whatever else. So, but it should not be an issue today. All right, so yeah, we are in downtown Tokyo. I had a good it was okay day. Today is a National Founders Day. I'll put the actual holiday on the screen. Very empty city. Very cold today, but I did go out. I'm gonna have my coffee, wherever it went. Extra limited latte, because I'm not the FB today. I'm the FO, so I'm gonna have coffee because I'll be awake for a while before my break. So how it should be is Captain and I will take off. They'll go on break. A couple hours later, we'll go on break. Then they'll come up front. Then we'll go back up front. Then we'll go back on break and come up right before arrival in Dallas. I'll be home for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I leave again on Saturday for Korea. All right, let's finish my coffee and packing up the room. So we all hopped in the nice bus and headed from Tokyo to Narita. It's about a 45-mile drive, and depending on time of day, it could take quite a bit. But we had plenty of time this afternoon to get there. So we hopped in the bus. We talked a little bit. Many people slept and relaxed. But we got to the Narita airport. Very nice airport. Again, it's old, but it's very nice. And walking in, it has one of those giant, old-fashioned, flight boards, which is really neat to see. But we all cleared security, then cleared customs, and I have a habit of not looking for the gate leaving Narita since we always leave from the same gate, and I assume things. I didn't look at the gate number. I'm just assuming because we've always left from the same gate as long as we're on time. And I guessed right. There is the tail. I did stop by the store at the end to get some chocolate for my wife, some Royce chocolate. They only had one box left, and that was it. I was like, man, I like the chocolate on the left-hand side, the milk chocolate, because my wife only likes milk chocolate. I didn't end up buying a Royce chocolate bar for her, though, so there was that. But down below, you can see the 777-200 being serviced by all of the ground personnel. walked down the jet bridge, and then I kind of took a cheesy photo of the window. I just took this photo of the plane. Why? Because I can. So before every flight, we discuss the taxi instructions leading from gate 72, and we're talking to a ramp controller at this point, not ground. And the ramp controller is 121.75. You can see it because it's on this side of that little black line up there. The ramp controller will clear us to push back onto Papa 2. We'll start our engines, then we'll be cleared via Papa 2, Papa 3, Echo 3 gateway. That's unique here, a gateway. That's new terminology for me that we don't use in the United States. But once we get to Echo 3, we call ground, and ground will clear us to taxi via Echo 3, Kilo, and then all the way around the airport. Now, we get a nice long taxi here in Narita due to our gate location. So plenty of time to do all the checklists, verifying the weights, the temperatures, all that stuff. Now, we taxi all the way around, and there's actually a man's house over here. It's not depicted on this diagram here, but there is actually several families living on the airport out of respect to the families before they built the airport. But we taxi via Kilo all the way around to runway 34 left. I think it's Kilo then Alpha. And then we take off 34 left on the Goldo 2 departure. And this is the same thing just from the viewpoint of my seat. Again, right here, we're talking to the ramp controller. They already cleared us to taxi again via Papa 2, Papa 3, Echo 3 gateway. Once the captain turns on to the Papa 3 here, I'll call ground and say, ground, flight 45 with Kilo at the Echo 3 gateway. And they've always cleared us the exact same taxi instructions via Echo 3 gateway, Kilo, and I believe it normally is like Cold Short CR7. And that is because they have two different ground controllers. They have a north and south ground controller, but it's all the way around. And again, nothing in the 777 happens fast. Actually, nothing in any jet happens fast. A common misconception that I had, and a lot of pilots have, going from general aviation to a jet is things happen faster in the jet because it flies faster. That's the opposite. Nothing happens fast. There's no need to do anything quickly. Especially in this big giant 777 weighing 500,000 pounds, right? We taxi slow. No turns at 90 degrees are faster than 10 knots. And generally, you don't taxi any faster than 15 to 20 knots. It's a very leisurely pace because you have a giant mass of an airplane. Now, I wish I'd tried this in X-Plane and Flight Sim 2020. Neither one has the man's house depicted correctly on the sim, so I'll kind of show you from pictures on the internet. But it's a family. Before they built the airport, they had several farms on this piece of land, and in the U.S., they just take their land, give them some money, and push them out of the way. In Japan, they said, no, we respect your heritage here, and they let them keep their property until they die. And then once they die, my understanding is they will then reacquire the land. But this one person's house here, next to Kilo here, they have their own private access tunnel to their property to get to it. It's very unique, and it's kind of neat to see leaving the airport. And we're leaving here right at sunset out of Narita. Again, it's early in the morning in Dallas, but sunset here in Narita. During the taxi, as a first officer, I am verifying our final weight. I'm verifying the weather conditions outside, that the temperature outside is consistent with what the dispatcher sent us for our performance numbers for takeoff. Then I'm verifying the winds are still good as far as headwind, tailwind, because sometimes at some airports, we have to use a tailwind takeoff. And we have to make sure that we are within limits for a tailwind takeoff. I'm also verifying that all of our cargo is accounted for correctly as far as any kind of hazmat on board. To make sure that if they have hazmat paperwork, we have hazmat on the final worksheet for the closeout for the cargo compartment. Once all that is satisfied, then I let the captain know, hey, we're good for a TO takeoff off runway 34 left, flaps 5, derated to, 34 degrees assumed temperature. Winds, temps are good, and all the hazmat is accounted for. So weights, winds, temps are good, and we're good to go for 3-4 left, making sure that everything is consistent. Once that is all done, we do the checklist. I advise the flight attendants that we're to prepare for takeoff. And then from that point, we get to the runway, and we will clear off takeoff on the Golbo 2 departure off runway 34 left. Now, the Golbo 2 departure is an RNAV departure. It's just a bunch of right turn to get us out over the ocean. So Golbo 2 departure, and you can see they have different runways listed. We're doing runway 34 left, and they always have a textual description of what you're going to be doing for the initial climb for that specific runway. Additionally, you can notice that the transition altitude in Japan is 14,000 feet versus in the US, it's 18,000 feet. In London, it is 7,000 feet. So it's something to be cognizant of, especially operating around the world. We're always just, looking at all the differences between the different airports we fly to. You get kind of spoiled in the United States having 18,000 feet. But leaving on runway 34 left, we do have some crossing restrictions. At Aries, it is above 4,000. Because you see the little line under 4,000, that means at or above 4,000 feet. But then at the next A4 L12, it's below 7,000 feet. So above 4, but below 7. Just a few of the notes for the Globo to departure. Eventually we get out over the ocean, and it connects to the an airway for us to join the oceanic portion. And we do go from voice to CPDLC fairly quickly, leaving Narita. Out over the ocean, again, our last fix that's named is Lepke. After Lepke is all latitude and longitude fixes. See that little black line there? That goes between the Tokyo airspace, CPDLC, and actually Oakland, California. Yep, they handle all this oceanic portion for us for CPDLC, all the way across the Pacific Ocean. But it's just a bunch of latitude, longitude fixes all the way across the ocean. Gonna have multiple breaks across this flight, getting into Northern California and on into DFNW. Now, the captain did the takeoff, and he offered me the landing. He says, Darren, it's a long flight. I've flown through before. Because we deadheaded here, do you want to take off or land? I'm like, hey, man, I'll land. Happy to do it. So it was we handed controls over after our second break. He said, okay, your aircraft, and I flew the remainder of the flight, just the last 40 minutes or so. Again, I learned to fly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This lake here, Joe Pool Lake, that was one of our, if you get lost, this aim for the lake. There are actually some towers just southeast of here. The Cedar Creek towers that you would always look for if you're a student pilot and you're lost. Just look for the towers. But right ahead of us is the Grand Prairie Airport. We don't get too much traffic from them, but the Arlington Airport off right there to my left of the aircraft, every now and then you guys who fly there set off some of our TCAS alerts when you climb super quick. But we're down at 3,000 feet. That is the base of the Class Bravo airspace coming into DFW from the south. Now, I was landing on runway 36 left. I decided to do a flaps 25 landing. VREF was 150. V approach was 5 knots faster, 155. Now, for every approach, I have to land within the first 3,000 feet of the runway or first 1/3, whichever is shorter. Now, in DFW, the runway is about 13,400 feet long. Crazy long runway, right? We never need that much runway. Even if we had a single engine hydraulic issues on an icy runway, it'd be pretty hard pressed to use all that runway. Anyways, I have an app on my company EFB that I can review my landings, and from 6 minutes out, it records all the parameters, and it shows me where I touch down on every single approach. Now, I've been working to shorten my distance. Now, I've always been within the touchdown zone, but I've been as short as maybe 1,100 feet and as long as 2,200 feet. Not my best work, right? And I want to get down to the 1,300 to 1,600 foot range consistently on a dry runway, normal conditions. On this particular approach, again, 3-6 left approach, I did flaps 25, auto brakes 2, and a big determination about how much I float and how firm I land is when I begin my flare. Now, when I first started flying, I'll start beginning the flare around 50 feet because it's a big, heavy aircraft. They don't want me slamming it down, right? I've slowly reduced that to between 40 and 30 feet. I'll begin my flare. And on this particular approach, I began the flare right at 30 feet and put it down, according to my landing app, about 1,400 feet down the runway. And that number is plus or minus 200 feet on the app. So I could have been 1,200 feet. I might have been 1,600 feet. But I was happy with the landing. It wasn't super smooth, wasn't really firm. It was just very average landing, and I'll take average any day of the week. I think this was my 29th landing on the 777. I get advised every time I sign in for a trip, I get advised on how many landings I've done and how many hours I have as a first officer. I've yet to mention, I was flying with number 2 again. Number 2 in the whole company. The number 1 captain on the 777 in Dallas. Great guy. Again, I flew with him a few weeks past. Awesome guy to fly with. I mean, truly, I learned from him. Great talking to him. And he has over a year left. He doesn't retire until June of next year. So he's going to have a very long career as the #1 pilot in DFW on the 777. But took off my blue pullover, and I'm always cold on the flight deck, even with all the heaters on, and packed up my stuff after running all the last checklists. My job as a first officer, I run the final checklist, the secure checklist, before leaving the flight deck. And I always come back to make sure I didn't forget anything, because I did it one time, never again. I check my side, double check it, nothing left behind, everything's good to go. Out the door, up the escalator, clearing customs. And I've cleared customs so many times in Dallas. It's kind of funny. I wonder if I could ever see my customs file. Like, how many times have I actually left and re-entered the United States over the last 17 years? It's got to be a crazy long list. But out the door, onto the employee bus, and out to my car. Again, I don't feel super tired because, again, I had a break right before landing. So it is 2:15. And I'm supposed to, I think, just now be pulling into the gate, and I'm already in my car. And I'm not exhausted. And I can't tell if it's because I'm getting used to these trips, or is it because I did extra rest? Because again, I didn't go out last night. I wish I would have, actually, because I heard stories and it was fun, but I didn't 'cause I thought I was tired. It is what it is. Long van ride from Tokyo to Narita, but I didn't mind it. I would much prefer to stay in Tokyo downtown and have a long van ride on each side than stay by Narita. Narita, there's not a whole lot going on in Narita, right? You know? Yeah, it is what it is. But we got to the airport just fine. Security just fine. Handed over my yellow card. There's my flight attendant. Handed over my yellow card and went to look for some Royce chocolate, but they were sold out. So I got some other chocolate from my family instead. And we boarded up, pushed out a few minutes early. The captain said, "Hey, you want to split the leg?" I went, "Yeah, I'll split the leg." So he took off, and I was going to land. Normal takeoff from the south runway, 34 left, or the left side of the airport anyway. Took off initially on an on-out departure. Then we got a radar vector because we didn't need to do the whole rigmarole going all the way out and around everything. Once we were up a little higher, the relief pilots took their break, and we're up front. And it's easier leaving Asia going over the Pacific than it is leaving Europe going over the Atlantic. It's just different. Much less traffic. That's a big deal. But I was pilot monitoring, so I was on the radios initially. Got our oceanic clearance and all that fun stuff, and headed out over the ocean. Very smooth ride. And my first stint in the seat was about 3 hours, and it went by pretty quickly. Me and the captain talked a bit. He's number two. I'm number 9,050. I followed him once before to Korea. Amazingly nice guy. Like, super genuine, great pilot, great captain. Like, if you're not a flight crew member, it's kind of hard to explain when you meet someone that is just a good captain. Like, good at his job, good at authority, giving people respect, making decisions, having you feel included. Great captain. He is 63, so he will be number 2 for a while, and he'll be number 1 for a while as well. He don't retire until next year, so good for him. I say, hey, it must be nice just bidding the sequences, right? To say, I want that trip, and that trip. But, yeah, kind of nice, but in a nice way, not a cocky way. Anyway, after my 3 hours in the seat, I went on break, and again, it's 200, and it has the bunks. And I don't like 4-person crews with bunks. It's just weird. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna sleep in a bunk. So do you want top bunk or bottom bunk? He's like, I'll probably do top. I might go in the chair. He went to the chair. I went to the bunk, and I slept for about an hour and 30 minutes continuously on my break. Woke up, used the restroom, back in my seat, slept for another maybe back in the bed. Another half an hour. Then I was kind of tossed and turned for the last hour. That's what it is. Then back up front again, and then the second time I'm up front, it's only 2 hours long. So 2 hours, went back on break again. And for my second break, We did some turbulence, but nothing crazy. For my second break, I went to the chair. So did he. And I wasn't tired at all. Like, I didn't need a break. Here's how untired I was. So when I left the hotel, I had a little bottle of coffee I bought, the cafe latte thing. I just chugged it down. Then I had a cup of coffee. We got onto the airplane. And that's all I had for caffeine all day long. I'm a coffee guy. I didn't have to dip into my Red Bull. I bought a sugar-free Red Bull. Never dipped into it. Never felt the need to dip into it. So I feel really good. Because again, it's 2 in the afternoon, and I don't feel like I need to take a nap. I could break my rules and drive my kids around and use power tools. I'm not going to. But when I came back up front, we're pretty close to Dallas. I got resituated in my seat. Again, I'm doing the arrival and the landing. It's overcast skies here, about 1,300 feet. We're being vectored around for 3-6 left. And the captain, when he came back up front, said, man, last time I was here, man, we had to do a go-around for coyotes on the runway. We had to go around about 100 feet above the ground. Like that's how low they got. We go around, it takes a while for the plane to react. I'm like, man, don't say that. But he did. Serious crap for coming in, and somebody's reporting coyotes on 36 right, the departure runway. They stopped all departures. I'm like, oh. And then said, hey, there's another coyote. I'm like, oh, crap. And I see it, Aaron. I went, no, it's you, man. And the aircraft we're following didn't follow the speed instructions correctly because we got a little close to them. Not like we were like normal, it's 1,000 feet apart, 3 miles apart. We were maybe 2 miles and 2 3/4 miles behind them. Nothing dangerous by any means. So 2 3/4 miles behind them. But they told them, minimal time on the runway. So I'm like, so we're gonna do a go around because either separation, probably not, if they land long, or damn coyotes. And they warned us about coyotes 2 times. 2 times. And I'm like, crap. But they cleared the runway. Thank you, SkyWest. And came in. It was looking beautiful. Winds right down the runway. It was looking beautiful. Captain's like, oh, you're gonna love this one. Last 2 feet, 3 feet, and then not hard, but not smooth. It looks beautiful. It looked beautiful. But I get paid the same either way. Pulled into the gates. One of you guys said hi to me on the radio, and then had to explain to them, hey, what do they call you? Yeah, I don't mind. Got to the gate. The relief pilots bailed pretty quickly, as relief pilots do. I packed up my things and am headed out the door. Okay, I'm not in a big rush. My kid doesn't get out of school until 4. My oldest gets out of school at 3:30, and our neighbor is picking them up. So I'll be at home by myself for a little while because again the wife is out of town. But I am off until Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. And then got Incheon. So my next trip is a FO trip to Incheon, meaning I'm flying it. And then I have a week off, then I do a relief pod trip to Incheon, and I'm done for the month. I'm telling you all my trips because by the time this video airs, those trips will be done. But yeah, I will send it to Darren to wrap it all up. So overall, it was a great trip. Again, I got this trip only because I happened to see it in open time. I'm very junior. I say that often because I don't want to give a false impression that I have this amazing ability to get these awesome trips. I don't. I lose on more trips than I get. I see all these awesome charter trips that go to Kuwait City and all these places in Germany that are doing these military charters. I can't get those. I'm far too junior. But it was a very good trip, very easy trip, right? I got paid to Deadhead. On the way to Haneda, that trip paid 13 hours and 55 minutes, so roughly $4,200. The numbers are here. And then from Narita back to Dallas, it paid about $3,550, 11 hours and 40 minutes. So these are my hourly for the Haneda trip, for the Deadhead to Haneda, flight Narita to Dallas, the per diem, and the international pay. Very lucrative trip. I was happy to get it. And again, it's nice to do not London. Again, I have nothing against London. It's just I went there a lot last summer. So I can go there once every other month. It'll do me fairly well. But that was my trip to Japan. Again, I've already been to Korea since I've filmed this video, and I go once more this month. I truly appreciate your support. Please consider subscribing. It costs you nothing. It helps me quite a bit. It gets more eyeballs on the channel. Have a great day, and as always, thank you for stopping by.